All right, next up we have Steve Bevan from GenCanna. He's going to be speaking on American hemp economics. Steve Bevan has over 20 years of experience in compliant investment, sales, and finance. Steve's impact at GenCanna is felt on multiple levels, from its foundational startup in Kentucky. Steve's approach to leading GenCanna's hemp industry stewardship provides great positioning in hemp legislation, regulation, and compliance by facilitating working relationships with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, the Kentucky State Police, and Kentucky's federal leadership. In addition to serving as founding secretary of the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, Steve works with grassroots activists, regulators, lawmakers, and law enforcement to develop hemp industry standards and practices that help legalize the manufacture, research, and sale of cannabis-based products. And with that, I give you Steve Bevan. I just want to make an announcement as well, is that whenever we get to the part for questions, we do have a mic that is on the floor. So when you are chosen to have your question heard, if you'll look to your right, Tim over here has the roving mic, and we will bring it to you so that everybody can hear the question. So thank you for that. All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen. Thank you to HIA for hosting this awesome event. Thanks to everybody for being here. We're grateful to be here today in Los Angeles talking about the soon-to-be federally legal part of cannabis. We at GenCanna have been moving forward our little bit of the hemp movement for quite a number of years, 5 years in Kentucky. And we thought we'd show you a little bit about what that looks like. So who is GenCanna? GenCanna is a vertically integrated hemp producer in Kentucky, Central Kentucky, West Kentucky. We've got partnerships in New York, in Oregon, Pennsylvania, and pretty soon we're coming to a state near you, including California. We've been very proud of our Kentucky roots, because Kentucky has been the first best place for hemp for the last 5 years. The leadership that we've seen in the great state of Kentucky, from Senate Leader McConnell, Senator Paul, through Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and the various other political folks, has been nothing short of supportive and astounding. And that is a really big deal. When we talk about hemp and hemp economics and what that really means, it's important to recognize where we've come from. There was a lot of hemp grown in the United States of America a long time ago, back in before the turn of the century, again for the war effort in the 40s. Kentucky had a great memory of that, and that was very important, because that gave rise to the activism of some folks like Jack there, who were able to move things forward a little bit, or at least keep hemp in the eye of the public, and a little bit in terms of a legislative agenda. Everybody remembers the Ninth Circuit Court decision in 2004 that made a narrow window or sliver open for hemp economics. A few great companies turned that into a great opportunity. And things have evolved from that point. The real demarcation point was the Farm Bill 2014. I'm sure most in the room are very familiar with it. This changed everything, the words on this page. Basically, if you're able to produce industrial hemp in a state-sanctioned pilot program, it's not a controlled substance. That makes all the difference in the world. What this means is that legislators, regulators, law enforcement, researchers, teachers, parents, doctors no longer had to fear, correctly or incorrectly, this THC stuff. Because it's not well known or not well understood by a lot of people, because it's been federally illegal, removing the THC has been fundamental to moving hemp, and in our opinion, all of cannabis forward in the federally legal framework. So the simple act of defining hemp as really not having much THC at all has made all the difference in the world. It's allowed us to get farmers farming, and it's allowed us to concentrate on the economics of the family farm again. This is really important as the foundational basis for the entire hemp, and I would suggest CBD industries. So, as we've evolved, we've been able to put farmers back on big green machines out in fields, and they've been able to do a whole raft of great production. We're 1,000 acres in Kentucky this year, and we think that as we scale our production next year, we're looking to go 10x that in Kentucky and other states. We think that this is really going to make all the difference in the world. What we mean by that, in terms of economics, is that it's a lot cheaper to grow plants outdoors. It just is. Nobody farms corn or beans indoors, right? So farmers have a natural advantage because the land is relatively available and it's relatively cheap. And as we're able to adopt agronomic techniques, modern agronomic capabilities to hemp, it's incredible what we're going to be able to provide. So our company alone is literally going to make millions and millions of dollars to farmers in Kentucky and a few other states for their crops this year. And we're happy to do so and happy to scale that dramatically. Thank you. There's also an effect on the local business economy. In Kentucky, we've been gratified to know that it's not just the farmers and the farm families that are benefiting. There are a whole raft of other local businesses, some with national footprints, some with small local ties, that have been so pleased that we've just chosen to be in Winchester, Kentucky. We're very thankful and grateful to a very large multinational tobacco company that they left us a beautiful facility that we've been able to repurpose tobacco research facility into a hemp research campus, and that's been amazing for us and our local partners in Kentucky. And what we mean by that is that we've spent a lot of time, a lot of money on infrastructure. We've helped farmers build out their farms. We've helped greenhouse owners build out, refit, improve their greenhouses. We've built our own equipment, our drying capacities, our storage capacities, our extraction, refining, product formulation capacities. And we made this slide a few days ago, and we've just increased our plans for 2019 already. That curve needs to go up a little bit more because the future is so very, very exciting. So the point of all this, the point of the economics is really about jobs for people, and especially jobs for people in rural communities. The farm communities, especially in Kentucky, have been very hard hit because the best cash crop from 2 generations and 1 generation ago, tobacco, is really no longer. There are very large multinational tobacco companies making billions and billions of dollars. They left their farmers in Kentucky and other American states high and dry. Those communities have suffered greatly for a long period of time, and it's awesome that it looks very much like hemp is a replacement crop. Last year at the HIA convention, this very convention in Lexington, Kentucky, we did a talk. We had a chart that was kind of similar to this. We had hoped that by the end of 2018 that our company, GenCanna, just one of many companies in the hemp business, that we would have over 60 employees. I'm happy to report it was a couple weeks ago that we crossed over 100 employees. We expect to have at least 120, maybe more, by the end of the year. Thank you. These are jobs in our production and processing facility. So they're jobs in the warehouse, they're jobs in the storage, they're jobs in our lab. They're the support positions around all of our business, in extraction, in refinement, in product formulation, QA, QC. We have the biggest QA, QC department. There's always these new guys in lab coats running around with beakers and test tubes and testing literally everything at every point of our production in order to ensure that our products meet quality standards. We have a growing and burgeoning sales team. It's amazing. From 1 or 2 people, is Garrett in the room? There we go. We've grown to about 12 on our sales team. We're incredibly gratified by all of the great jobs that we've been able to create because of what hemp and hemp-derived CBD has meant to us. We've got an accounting department that we're going to have 15 people in the next couple months, just to look after all the stuff we're buying from local businesses and all the stuff that we're selling to local, national, and international businesses. So we're astounded, and we're just getting started. One of the things we want to point out, though, is that we're not talking about labor jobs or minimum wage jobs. We were, as a group, as a management group, we were astounded to hear in the news a few weeks ago that a great big company like Amazon was considering moving all of their employees to a $15 an hour wage. We've never paid anyone less than $15 an hour. It's very important that in the sharing of the economic benefits of what hemp and hemp-derived CBD have brought to the entire industry, it's very important that everybody gets treated well along the way. So. And I'm going to make a little bit of a political statement because I'm Canadian. One thing is very, very important at GenCanna. Every single employee that we have has access to whatever healthcare plan they want. So, how does this really work, and how do we move this about the country? Because we've been able to establish, after a number of years of trial and error, working with some great farming partners in Kentucky and beyond, we're announcing our certified farming network. We provide farmers with the SOPs, the genetics, every ability and capability of growing a little compliant plant this big into a great big compliant plant that we can harvest at the end of our year. What's really cool is that we're getting traction from farmers of all size, from all parts of the country and beyond. The ability to understand and articulate what hemp farming is, what hemp farming for high CBD crops is, makes all the difference in the world. So we're very excited about that. We're very excited about the state of hemp genetics, where there was none a few years ago, and we had to internalize everything we did. There is a great and growing plethora from some great development programs in places like Colorado, Oregon, here in California, and especially some of our work and good work of others in Kentucky. There's great access to a lot better plants that are far better acclimatized to grow in different regions of the United States. And to make things even better, crop insurance for farmers is coming. We expect to announce both as a company and as an industry through the roundtable and different groups within the roundtable that crop insurance, not quite part of the USDA program yet, because USDA isn't quite the regulator for hemp just yet. As soon as we get the Farm Bill passed, that will happen. But over the next short while, farmers should feel great comfort that crop insurance will be available. And we think this is going to be game-changing for the hemp industry. So when we talk about the supply and an increasing supply, what we need to ensure is that with that supply and that scale, that we meet all of our quality marks. We're so very proud as founding members of the Roundtable and of the new U.S. Hemp Authority that we've got some standards now for growers and processors. So we can actually point to quality marks that convey thoughtfulness, appropriateness, a sense of quality, a sense of improving quality on products that meet our standards. This is very, very important. In GenCanna, it's important for us to have a lot of good genetics, a lot of great farming partners, a wonderful harvest, but we've got to be able to demonstrate that we're in compliance not only with this 0.3 stuff, but that we're in compliance with food safety standards. That makes all the difference in the world, because this taboo hemp CBD stuff that people are somewhat confused about is now becoming part of the mainstream. And that is for certain going to benefit every part of the value chain. So we see that we've got infrastructure with a nice curve. We see we've got jobs with a nice curve. This is just our company. There are many, many other fine companies. You've heard from a couple of these guys today. We are so excited that when we aggregate all of this data for the industry, it's going to have an unexpected and profound impact on how very large multinational food companies understand hemp and hemp products. At GenCanna, we're an ingredient manufacturer. We make ultra pure CBD derived from hemp, 99.5% approximately, and we sell it in large quantities to folks who take that ingredient and manufacture it into other products. We take oils and we can custom make any blend that is necessary, ship it anywhere in the country or the world in a 55-gallon drum or a larger container. We are excited to be able to do custom formulations with almost any flavor under the sun. My favorite for some of our customers making pet treats is our kosher vegan bacon flavor. It's pretty cool. One of the exciting parts of our evolution as a company is that we're not only able to offer these bulk solutions, we're able to offer smaller solutions in the sense that a lot of folks just want a ready-made product. So we're happy to put some of those oils or put some of that CBD crystal in a bottle, in a topical, in any other delivery form. New delivery forms are coming very, very quickly. So as that's all emerging, we want to be sure that anyone who wants to have access to our farmers' products from the U.S., grown in the U.S., sold in the U.S. and abroad, we want to be sure that you can get it in a 55-gallon drum or a little tincture bottle or any other form you want. So more to come on that very, very soon. Because of all of this, our sales are starting to ramp and we're having one of those hockey stick moments. This is This is something we're pretty proud of. Our sales team especially has done a great job. But this is really a metaphor for the entire hemp industry. We have talked about what hemp was going to do, what CBD was going to do for a great number of years, and it's happening. It's starting to happen right now, and folks from all around the country and all around the world are beginning to take notice. We want to make mention of a few of our partners, and we want to specifically single out 3 of GenCanna's long-term partners because they've been with us for quite a while, and they've understood, like we did years ago, what was needed to make a new industry. And importantly, these 3 companies, Medterra, have been supporters of GenCanna before we really understood what and how GenCanna was going to make products and sell them. They're right here in the lovely state of California, and their business is just booming. They have incredible products and an incredible network for selling these products nationally and internationally. Green Roads out of Florida has a beautifully branded set of products, suite of products available up and down the East Coast and via online networks. They have been amazing, strong supporters in a really big way. And lastly, HempWorks, network marketing company. I would argue that between these 3 companies, you're looking at 3 of the top 5, maybe top 10 CBD brands in the country and perhaps around the world. Their sales are all having hockey stick moments like the previous chart that I showed you. And it's amazing because almost none of their data shows up in any of the industry tallies. So there's a need for better information about the economics of hemp and hemp-derived CBD in terms of how we see that affecting real revenues. So what does this mean for the future? We're just getting started. Cannabinoids, not just CBD, lots of other cannabinoids are in demand. We want and need for farmers to farm cannabinoids. There's some neat stuff happening in labs all over the world. That should not have any negative effect on our farmers farming hemp for natural cannabinoids. Global attitudes are shifting. We feel very fortunate, and we know that the GenCanna as a company and the industry as a whole, as we're having these great ramps in the economics, we understand that it's time to start giving back. So please watch for that in the near future. Most importantly, though, what we're seeing is very clearly an intersection of hemp, cannabis, natural food products, functional foods, superfoods, and the mainstream manufacturers. It's coming and coming quickly. So, hemp is really all of cannabis except THC. That THC stuff is regulated by states and has to be sold in the dispensary model under great regulation. Everything else that you can manufacture in cannabis, you can do legally on a farm with hemp. And that is incredibly exciting for us. So our version of federally legal cannabis called hemp has been available for 5 years. Folks are becoming more and more aware of it. The passage of the Farm Bill will more clearly articulate how that happens. And we're incredibly excited about how all this is happening because hemp at its nature is just food. The entire global food industry is reacting to what we're doing, to what other farmers and other producers are doing. Literally, the brands that you see are all seeking sources of reliable, sustainable, high-quality, hemp-derived CBD. So we're very excited about where things are at right now and where they're going into the future. And that's about it for what I've got to say. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions.
Excellent talk. Thank you so much. I come from Vancouver, so I recognize the out and about. Economic options for the farmer. Would love to understand the deals and how those work with you, because we care a lot about the farmers.
Awesome, thank you. In terms of, it's great that you mentioned Canada. In Canada, cannabidiol is still a Schedule II substance. We would love to be able to export American CBD back home to Canada. There's a bizarre set of MMJ rules and what have you that are coming into effect. I'm not really sure that Canadian hemp farmers are in anywhere near as an advantageous position as American hemp farmers. And for that reason, it's all about USA, American grown, American manufactured, and American export products, at least for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
What size farmers, or how small of a farm will you help in your network?
So we've got farms from several thousand acres where we farm, on part of their farms we'll farm several hundred acres, all the way down to farms that are 50 and 100 acres where we'll have 5 and 10 and 20 acres. The most important factor in our decisions of how we work with farmers is their willingness to start with the plan, with the recipe, and to help us learn and get better to move forward. So we found that because of the agronomic state of where farming's at, the guys who drive around in the great big green machines on those giant farms with thousands of acres of corn and beans, we're not quite ready for that scale yet. We're ready for a lot of folks who are used to, you saw in some of the pictures, who are used to having a lot more labor on the farm. And we're okay with that because there's a lot of jobs and a lot of economic benefit in not having figured out how to automate everything just yet. So we're able to accommodate smaller farmers who have an ability and a desire to have a very quality crop. We've got we're pretty pleased back home in central Kentucky and Clark County where we're out of. We're pretty pleased that we've been able to help farmers undo some of the financial burdens that got placed upon them by the decline in tobacco prices. So literally they've been able to buy their own farm back from the bank. It's been pretty amazing. Thank you.
So one of the things that you had mentioned earlier on is that, as you're well aware of, you have different climates in different parts of the country, and love to hear what you have to say about what's working in Colorado, because we've had a rather unusual experience this year with 4 different strains. I'd be curious to know what your experience was.
You're probably a little bit over my pay grade here. We don't have a great and large exposure in Colorado. We probably will over the next little while. We understand there have been some great areas of production in the state and some problems, and I'm not sure what's real and what's anecdotal in that regard. So sorry, I don't have a great answer.
Is it accurate that you provide the genetics to all of your farmers? Do they have like a choice over what they're going to grow? And then secondly, how large of a, call it consulting team, I suppose, do you have kind of in place to teach and help and partner with them?
Thank you. So firstly, there's some great hemp being grown in Tennessee. It's not easy when things are relatively new for farmers. It's hard, especially if there's no written recipe. So we've had some we've met some great farmers from Tennessee, and they've had mixed success this year. In terms of genetics and what GenCanna does, we insist that all of our farmers use genetics that we've internally approved that meet our standards, and we're happy to have discussions about other opportunities. But since compliance is very, very important, and since we can only do certain things, we've not yet found a way to use someone else's genetics, if that's the right answer. And we have a big and growing team, as you saw, in all areas of the business. We are, as we're expanding our footprint, shall we say, we've been able to find some great and amazing people literally all over the country. There's so many people with so much farming knowledge, you know, and I forgot to mention our friends at University of Kentucky. The academics who had been in a position to study tobacco and other crops have also been looking for something else to study. I think that, and I can speak with our relationship at UK, there are going to be a number of great discoveries, announcements, developments, improvements coming from American researchers that have now had 2 or 3 or 4 years to play with some hemp. That's going to make all the difference in the world as we're moving towards scaling and better quality, better crops for farmers. So.
Hello. Just a question regarding hemp as a monoculture. Given that hemp is a well-known soil remediation, reclamation crop, and that large, vast monocultures have a tendency to transform the soil, and of course a remediation crop grown as a monoculture will have an even more profound effect on the soils. And I was just curious if your group has looked into that, has any sort of strategies to approach that, because this is kind of like medium to long-term consideration.
Thank you. That's a very important future development. If you stop by our booth later on today, you'll see some of our California partners who've been using words like permaculture, regenerative ag, and processes that I'm not nearly as well versed in as they are, in order to assure and ensure not only that our crop this season is good, but that the biology around the plant and the soil especially are improved as we go. So everybody believes that hemp is this wonderful plant that can fix soils. And maybe it can, but maybe if you fix the soil, hemp and many other crops can grow really well, more quickly, better in a meaningful way. So again, please drop by our booth. We've got some very educated folks from right here in the state of California who can speak at a much higher level. Thank you.
What kind of security do your farmers use on their farms, and what percentage of the crops do they lose to theft and other security breaches? Do you have an idea of that?
That's a great and improving question. When we first got to Kentucky 5 years ago and started putting this stuff into eastern Kentucky, it was very interesting. The security needs were surprising. A lot of people thought that the hemp crop was something that it wasn't. And from our perspective at GenCanna, we've had a lot of experience with security. One of our founders has a 26-year history with ATF, served on Capitol Hill in New York, a very elevated gentleman. So we've always been able to work with local, state, and national law enforcement. That's really important, it was more important 5 years ago when folks didn't understand what hemp was. So our open door policy has been greatly helpful in the police, the local sheriff, local law enforcement, local DEA, local marijuana eradication folks, in understanding what we're growing, why we're doing it. We understand that the hemp movement and hemp farming initially puts a lot of fear into law enforcement, and they're right to be fearful, because we do have incursions, we do have people growing illegal and illicit substances and marijuana. I think marijuana was Kentucky's top cash crop, illegal or not, a number of years ago. So there have been a lot of issues. We're happy to say that they've declined dramatically as time has gone by. Most of our incursions right now happen with youth. Kids will be kids, and they get walking by. There's these great aromas, and they think it's it's okay to try something or they think it's novel. We've had a great opportunity to educate a lot of young people in what they ought not to do. All good? Okay. Thank you.